In this video, we're going to be ranking the 10 best running backs in this year's NFL draft. These are the incoming rookies, and this is sort of a weird class. It's not known as like the best running back class or the deepest, but there's still some names in here that should be productive. And one that is a virtual lock to be productive is the number one player on this rankings. It should be pretty obvious the number one running back is going to be Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. Now let's break it down. He's an elite prospect. He tested at the combine when he didn't even have to, and he was 6 foot, 212 pounds, but that's not all that he did. He went there as just a 20-year-old, right? He's coming out a year early, his junior year. These are all positives. And he ran a 4.36 40 time. Now, at the end of the day, Jeremiah Love is probably bigger than 212 pounds. He probably plays closer to 220 pounds, so he probably slimmed down to run faster at the combine, but his stats are going to say that he runs a 4.36, and he has all the speed in the world, so it's not really a concern if he's maybe a 4.4 guy. He's NFL ready. He's coming out a year early. He had multiple years of production at Notre Dame where they were playing the best teams in the country. 2 years ago in 2024, going to the college football playoff, facing the best of the best, going to the finals in that year, having 1,100 yards, having 19 touchdowns. Last year, doubles down with 1,300 rushing yards, almost 1,400, 21 rushing yards. When you combine that with his 280 receiving yards and a solid target share of 10.5%, these are all really good numbers. Jeremiah Love last year was putting up nearly 1,700 total yards. He was doing this while competing with Jadarian Price in his own backfield, who will probably go in like the third round of this year's NFL draft as well. You might see him, you probably will, hint, hint, in this video. So he's checking all the boxes. Tough competition, tough opponents he played against, productive at a big school. He has the speed, he has the size. What's not to like? Well, honestly, nothing. Like the only blemish maybe on his entire year last year was that in the first game of the year, when the offenses are a little bit rusty in the passing games and there's new personnel and new coaches against a top 10 Miami team that went to the college football playoff, one of the best defenses in the nation, Jeremiah Love only had 10 carries, 33 yards. But then what does he do after that? He rips off against a ranked A&M team, 94 yards when you factor in his receiving, over 100 against Purdue, 157 yards, multiple touchdowns. Boise State, 100 yards, has this big game against a ranked USC for 228 yards and a touchdown. Big game against a good Pitt team, ranked 147 yards and a touchdown. So he's battle tested. He had the big games. He's explosive. He can get to the second level. I'll say it again, what's not to like? What Jeremiah Love is known for is his explosiveness. He's shifty. He can handle 20 plus touches a game as a 3-down back, and he's a weapon in the passing game. If you wanted to say there was a downside to his profile, it's probably pass protection, but again, he's 20 years old. He's coming out a year earlier. He's probably going to improve this a ton before even NFL training camps start, and then definitely by week 1. So I think that's going to be fine for him. He'll be coached up. If you're looking at it right now on where he's going to go, he's a sure thing top 10 pick, maybe even a top 5 pick right now. Consensus mocks are putting him, as you can see right here on Mock Draft Database, to the Titans at number 4 overall. That makes sense. Their current running back room is Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, who is a running back who's older at this point, and Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears, who's coming up on his rookie contract being over. He's also a guy who has a knee injury that's probably not going to give him a lot of longevity in the NFL. They need a running back. Why not? Maybe the second best, third best player in this entire class. And that's at overall prospects. Obviously, he's the best running back in this class. That's why he's my number 1. If you look at some other sites too, like PFF, wherever you want to look, whatever source you say is more trusted, they all have him going as a top 5 pick. Now, my number 2 running back in this class, and this is where things can start to get wonky, is Jadarian Price. And that is the guy we mentioned earlier, the running mate for Jeremiah Love over at Notre Dame. He weighed in at the NFL Combine, 5'11", 203 pounds. So he got over that 200-pound mark, right, where people will start to freak out if he's not 200 pounds, even though it doesn't matter a ton. Just look at James Cook, weighed in around 199 pounds. Jahmyr Gibbs right at 200 pounds, all this. And then he weighed in at the Combine and he ran. And a lot of people said this was a bad day for him. I mean, it wasn't great. He runs a 4.49, which is fine. 66th percentile speed, 65th percentile burst. Like, he was never known to be an elite athlete. So he comes out, he tests slightly above average. Like, yeah, sure, it's not an elite prospect, but it's nothing that's going to bury him. Sure, he could have helped himself if he ran faster or showed more bursts and jumps at the Combine, but I don't think this buries him. In terms of NFL.com, they ranked him amongst all the running backs with the 3rd best total score from the 2026 Combine. This is factoring in the production in terms of some of the skills that you do there, the gauntlet drill, just pass catching, all that type of stuff, and then the athleticism score where he ranked 7th overall. Again, a weaker class, but he factored in 3rd overall there. His RAS score, relative athletic score, as you can see right here, Jadarian Price tested overall with an 8.76. Where does this have him rank? He ranks at 263rd out of over 2,000 running backs, so almost the top 10% to attend the Combine. So yeah, when you compare it to his teammate Jeremiah Love or some of the other freak athletes who tested at the Combine, like we'll talk about later in this video, a Mike Washington, a Seth McGowan, it's not going to look as good. But overall, for running backs his size attending the Combine, it's fine. Now, the spot that starts to get murky for Jadarian Price is that he really doesn't have a lot of college production, because the past 2 years, 120 carries, 113 carries, he was playing behind Jeremiah Love. Now, he was sort of this change of pace role, and even in that role, he averaged over 6 yards per carry the last 2 years, 746 rushing yards, 674 the last 2 years. So, like, this was still a guy who was getting production, was getting on the field, was taking Jeremiah Love off the field at times because he was so productive. But the big downside, look at this passing game profile. Only in his college career, in 3 seasons where, yeah, he's playing as a backup, but you saw he just got a lot of carries per year, he only has 15 career college catches. That's not great. I mean, in 2024, he only caught 4 balls for 10 yards. He's barely cracking a 2% target share. None of this is good for Jadarian Price. If you're going to be a guy who's coming into the NFL and you're not going to have that elite speed profile, you don't have a workhorse background in college, whether you played next to Jeremiah Love or not, it's just not there for him, and then you're not going to be a pass catcher, it starts to get concerning for fantasy football and for real life general managers on where they'll find a fit compared to some other guys who might be more of a specialist in a specific role. So that's my concern for Jadarian Price, is that he starts to drop in the draft, and if that ends up happening for Price, well, then obviously he's not going to be as impactful if he's like a 5th or a 6th round pick compared to a 3rd or maybe a 2nd round pick. As you can see, Ian Hartitz right here has his own stat called Cool Shit. It's RB's total touchdowns, explosive plays, and tackles avoided divided by their career targets. This is interesting because out of all the running backs in the Power 4 in this draft class with 100 plus opportunities, number 1 in this ranking of getting total touchdowns, explosive plays of 10 plus yards, that's defined as tackles avoided, so broken tackles, missed tackles forced. Jadarian Price is number 1. Number 2 is Jeremiah Love. So he was doing a lot with his opportunities overall. So that's something to look at. On his touches, we know he was efficient, over 6 yards per carry, and he was coming up in key moments with explosive runs and broken tackles. And this is why, if you were to go and watch the film, this is provided by Matt Lane over on Twitter. Be sure to give him a follow and check him out. If you were to watch the film, you'll see that he's able to hit his gaps. He's able to find the creases. He scores touchdowns, like we just said, double-digit touchdowns, a baker's dozen last year, despite competing and playing next to Jeremiah Love. And his strengths overall, I would say, physical runner. He's patient, as you can see on some of these videos here. He has elite contact balance as well, as you can see right there, change of direction a little bit. He's not going to be this speedy chunk play guy, but let's just watch this play right here. You're going to see patience. You're going to see, once you have the hole, enough speed to get to the second level, and I think that's why it's fine. This is not a guy who ran a 4.7. He didn't even run a 4.6. He ran in the 4.4s. He's going to be fine speed-wise. It just depends on, does a team trust him as a 2nd or a 3rd round pick? I think some team will, and if that's the case, he has enough draft capital to be meaningful in the NFL. Right now, the projection is that he is going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. The Seahawks do have a 2nd round pick, and if that's the case, Seattle could be very interesting for Jadarian Price. They do need a running back. Do they make him a workhorse back, even though he never showed it in college? I think he does have some of the prospects that could make him a workhorse back. He just never showed it, like I said, in college. So I'm not sure if he's the perfect fit for Seattle, but if he goes there, we have to pay attention, especially in fantasy. All right, now my number 3 running back is going to be Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas. Now, Mike Washington goes from maybe not even being in my top 6 or 7 running backs to now being my number 3 overall, because at the NFL Combine, he is a clear riser. He tested way better than expected. 6'1", 223 pounds. So you're going to get that NFL prototypical, like the 2000s, early 2010s, stereotypical running back size. He has that, which is still very useful in short yardage, still very useful at broken tackles. Just look at guys like Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor right now. And then he tested the Combine, and it's elite as it gets. A 4.33 40 means he has a 100th percentile speed score, the best we've ever seen at the NFL Combine for a running back his size, and a 92nd percentile burst score. What does this all mean? Well, it means that he tested out, as you can see right here, in terms of RAS score, relative athletic score, number 1 out of 2,115 running backs to attend the Combine since 1987. Mike Washington is the most athletic running back according to relative athletic score, which is just absolutely fantastic. Now, he didn't do the agility testing, but from an explosiveness standpoint, his vertical and broad jump, his size and his speed, especially that 10-yard split time, your burst to get off the line of scrimmage, all of those things were fantastic. It boiled down to him being the most athletic running back we've seen at the Combine. So this surely starts to check some boxes and move him up the rankings in a weaker running back draft class. And then you see that although he's transferred in some spots, he started at Buffalo for 3 years, went to New Mexico State, and in his 5th and final year of college over at Arkansas, he broke out. And look, this was a guy who had legit production last year at a bigger school. Over 1,000 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, 6.4 yards per attempt, 28 catches as well. He starts to check a lot of boxes. Is he the best pass catcher? In my opinion, watch watching his film? No. He only had, before last year, a combined like 35 to 40 career catches. None of them look great. Then last year, Arkansas got him activated in the pass catching game. Some of those were checkdowns. A lot of them were. Some of them were decent, but he's not the greatest pass catcher. He could just do enough out there. And this is a guy who, as he goes to a bigger school in Arkansas, you're going to start to play better schools. And when he starts to do that against an Ole Miss number 17 ranked team, he's going for 65 yards, 5 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns just on the ground alone. Against a good Notre Dame team, 63 rushing yards. When you factor in his receiving yards, he's putting up 70 total yards. Tennessee, a top 12 ranked team at the time, 137 yards and a touchdown. A top 5 ranked A&M team at the time, 147 yards in that game, also adds 3 receptions as well. Oh, let's keep going. 17th ranked Texas, which is a better 17 than you'll usually see because they're facing some of the best teams in the nation that year, like Ohio State, like A&M, who they ended up beating in the last week. 17 carries, 6 yards per carry, over 100 yards and a touchdown. He's putting up legit performances against some of the best schools in the country. When he faced top 12 teams last year, he went over 100 yards every single time. He was sort of the engine of that offense. You could see Matt Lane here over on Twitter starts to show some of his plays. Let's pull that one back to the beginning here. And really, he has the speed, as you can now see at the combine, that when he starts to get to that second level, it's just a different story for him. He was the engine of this offense, like I mentioned here, especially as they started to deal with some injuries. The strengths are some of the stuff you would expect based on his combine testing. Elite build, elite speed, he has power, he has vision, and he's shown improvement, especially this past year in Arkansas as a receiver. But some of this is nice. A lot of it's out of the gun, which is going to be typical in college, and you're just getting to the second level, and he's outrunning cornerbacks in safeties. That's what's going to happen when you're 4-3. But now you are going to have weaknesses as well. I mean, first of all, this is a running back who there are some ball security concerns. You would hope that that is going to get fixed in training camp, in NFL, just get coached up out of him. Otherwise, he's just not going to be in the league long. Pass protection is going to be the case with a lot of rookies in general. That's going to be something that needs to be worked on. And he's not super refined as a receiving back, as I've already kind of mentioned, although we saw some of that improvement last year. So if you're talking about a weaker running back draft class, Mike Washington could be the second running back off the board. If Seattle takes him at the end of the second round, and that's before Jadarian Price, because they prefer his size, his speed, his ability to maybe be a 3-down back more, well, then he's going to become very relevant immediately in the NFL as a second-round pick, and especially fantasy football circles. The consensus right now is that he will be a third-round pick. Some of his team fits are the Seattle Seahawks. As you can see, his NFL Combine, as this graph goes up, that means he's getting picked sooner. His NFL Combine was right around this time, the first week of March. That's where you get this spike upwards right here into him being a pretty close to top 50 consensus pick right now, and a sure second-round pick based on all consensus mocks out there. This is according to NFL Mock Draft Database. Now, before we get into the next player, I've got something great to share with you. I've teamed up with DraftKings Pick 6 to give you more ways to enjoy watching the sports you love. Now, here's how it works. You pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and with the NFL season over, it could be basketball, points, rebounds, and assists, or any other sport you prefer. So it's simple. There's no complicated rules. You just pick more or less on the player stats you like, and as your picks hit, you stack up your returns. Now, here's the part you need to hear. New DraftKings customers deposit $5 and play free with $25 instantly in bonus picks. And it gets even better because they're also giving you up to 100% in a winnings boost. And make sure you use code SAL when you sign up and deposit to take advantage of this offer. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app today, get in on the action, and sign up using my promo code SAL to ride the upside. In partnership with DraftKings Pick 6, the crown is yours. Now, my number 4 running back is going to be Jonah Coleman, who has not been talked about nearly as much as he should be. Now, let me explain. So Jonah Coleman is a 22-year-old out of Washington. He is 5'8", 220 pounds, a big running back, and this is a guy who did not test at the NFL Combine, right? All you're going to get for him is testing results is the bench press, which was fine, was nothing elite. It was fine at 220 pounds, 5'8", a running back. You would expect him to be able to put up somewhere between 15 and 20 reps. He put up 22. So again, it's fine. Does this really translate to the NFL? We know you're probably powerful. We saw that from your film. We saw that from your ability to break tackles in college. Now let's break that down since we don't have an athletic profile to go off of. In terms of the production, we can start right away with a nice stat from Jack Brentnall that we'll reference a couple times in this video. 2026 running back prospects, first downs per carry rate, as you can see right here. Number 1, Jonah Coleman at 35%, getting first downs per carry, which is going to mean you're reliable. When you do that often, you get the ball more often. That should translate to the NFL. And then according to Ian Hartitz, once again, he has all these fun stats. Little things, the RB1 in the little things. This stat is career drop rate plus pressure rate allowed plus fumble rate. So ideally, you're not fumbling, you're not dropping, and you're not allowing pressures. Number 1 in this category, ahead of Jeremiah Love, ahead of some other guys in this draft class like Jadarian Price, who are going to be consensusly ranked and probably taken ahead of him, you could see Jonah Coleman is number 1 on this list. Doesn't fumble the ball, doesn't have drops, and he does not allow pressures, pass protection. Those are massive things. If you can catch the balls thrown your way, protect the ball, and protect your quarterback, immediately you're going to get on the field, or at least have a cleaner path to getting on the field as a rookie. Now, in terms of college production, Jonah Coleman was fine in college. In his 2024 season as a junior, 5.5 yards per carry, over 1,000 yards and a touchdown. Last season, the overall rush attempts came down, 5 yards per carry, 758 yards, 17 touchdowns. But more importantly, this guy can catch passes, right? Last year, a 10% target share at Washington. Spent his first 2 years at Arizona, I should say, as well. Then he starts to get more usage the last 2 seasons at Washington. 31 catches last year in college. All this starts to check out for a 5'8", 220-pound running back. Everything looks good production-wise. The stats, the metrics, the advanced stats. Now, what about the film? Oh, and I should mention, 0 career college fumbles at Washington, 1 career drop. He is reliable. We kind of mentioned that in the Little Things stat by Ian Hart. It's as reliable as it gets. Now, there's a video chop up here from Snoop Fantasy over on Twitter that we're going to use. He says, if you like Cam Scattergood and Bucky Irving, you're going to like Jonah Coleman. Elite tackle evader, elite after contact, powerful downhill runner, good blend of vision and burst. And that's kind of a good comparison. Bucky Irving is what I usually, or what I'm seeing from a light comparison, not a direct play style comparison, but in terms of the ability to break tackles, you can see right there behind the line of scrimmage, the short area quickness as well. Those are things like Cam Scattergood excelled at last year. And you're going to get a lot of comps from these guys compared to Jonah Coleman, because like those guys last year, tackle breaking is unbelievable. Like, you need 4 guys to bring this guy down. And in some instances, even those guys can't bring him down, right? He never goes down on first contact, but like those guys, Bucky Irving and Cam Scattergood, they didn't run fast 40 times. Emmett Johnson, we're going to talk about him later. Jonah Coleman didn't even run because he probably wasn't going to run fast and he didn't want it to be used against him. But it's just not his play style. Like, he has enough speed and ability to break tackles to have explosive plays on his own. We've seen that in college. He doesn't need home run hitting speed. He wins in different ways. Specifically, he doesn't go down easily. He forces extra hits and he turns those 2-yard losses into 4-yard gains. The downsides are some of the stuff we already mentioned that really aren't downsides based on his play style. The top end speed is not really it. Pass protection could develop even more, but already he doesn't allow a lot of pressure, so I think he's already ahead of the game in terms of some of the other running backs in this draft class in that area. Jonah Coleman, as of right now, is being consensusly mocked as a 3rd-round pick. Team fits include the Tennessee Titans. You can see right here, he is going down since the NFL Combine. You can see this week right here at the Combine. He's going down since then because he didn't test compared to some other guys. I think that's a mistake. Assuming Jonah Coleman secures like 3rd or 4th-round draft capital, like a Cam Scattergood, like a Bucky Irving, I do think he could be a starting running back in the NFL eventually. Now let's get to my running back 5 in this class, Nicholas Singleton out of Penn State. Now this one's going to be controversial, but I do think Nick Singleton has a lot of upside, especially in this weaker draft class. He is the guy who has a higher ceiling. He's 6 foot, 219 pounds. He comes out of Penn State at 22 years old. Now he wasn't able to test at the Combine because he broke his foot at the Senior Bowl, but these are some of his high school measurements. Again, they're not the greatest. 4.46 is what he ran back then. I would expect 3 years later with a lot more specific and professional training for the Combine that this would be better. His speed score would probably be better. He was going to be a Combine freak. Like Mike Washington, who blew away the Combine, that was probably going to be Nick Singleton as well. He was going to be an absolute riser from the NFL Combine. The broken foot obviously halted that. As you can see from here, right here, some more information. It was a broken 5th metatarsal, according to Matthew Betts over on Twitter. For Singleton, bone on the outside of the foot. No athletic testing prior to the NFL draft, but ready for training camp in week 1. So this isn't going to be a long-term injury. Sure, it might hurt where he could have risen after the Combine for teams knowing that he was going to be big and fast. He did weigh in at 219 pounds. But overall, maybe it makes him a little bit more of a sleeper. He goes to a better team later on, something along those lines. Nick Singleton in college, if he would have came out after 2024, this guy might have been a 1st-round pick. Probably not, but he would have gone in the 2nd round at the absolute latest. Penn State running backs just can't catch a break going in the 2nd round since Miles Sanders. Journey Brown, if you remember him, he would have probably been a 2nd-round pick, had to retire for football due to some health reasons. Nick Singleton, he's going to fall now because after 2024, 1,100 rushing yards, broke out for 6.4 yards per attempt. He was an absolute beast. I mean, this guy started as a true freshman with over 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry in the Big Ten, facing tough teams like Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, good defenses right on both sides of the bracket, Wisconsin as well. And then he starts to improve. In that year in 2024, when he runs for 1,100 yards, he also had a career high 41 catches, a 12% target share. He was one of the best running backs in the nation at just 20 years old. If he would have declared early on and not brought the band back together for a final year with him, Drew Allar, Kaytron Allen in this backfield and try and go win a national championship, he would have been a second-round pick in the NFL. But instead, since then, things have only gotten worse for Nick Singleton because he comes back, he only plays in 12 games due to having the injury and the team not going as deep, right, and missing some time with the injuries. He only has 549 rushing yards, just 4.5 yards per attempt. His receptions dropped to 24 receptions, still a 10% target share. A lot of these were checkdowns though. So now you're getting a guy who doesn't have as much steam. He's not coming off of a 1,500-yard season where he broke out and it was his career year after having nice production earlier on. This is a concern. Then you break your foot before the combine and all the steam has kind of left the balloon for Nick Singleton. But the way that I would look at this guy is still an absolute monster. Again, as a freshman, he went for over 1,000 yards at Penn State. He had that massive 2024 season. In 2025, his quarterback gets hurt, right? Like if you look at Penn State in 2025, they start the year off nice for a couple of games, then the quarterback gets hurt, they lose a big game, James Franklin gets fired, and it's all downhill from there. So it makes sense if Nick Singleton starts to struggle a little bit. Now his backfield running back Kaytron Allen had a career year, so that's a little bit of a concern. But again, a couple of games into the season, it was no longer James Franklin, it was a whole new coaching staff who coached totally different. It was more old school football. It was the grinder back getting in there in Kaytron Allen, not as much as the flashy back in Nick Singleton. So I do think there's a lot of reasons for optimism for him. I mean, this guy overall, we've seen the big play upside. That's all you really need to see. He just needs to get healthy. He has a powerful frame. He has elite top speed. He's going to develop, in my opinion, into a legitimate receiving threat if he lands in the right spot. The downsides are the inconsistency in the profile. His patience isn't the greatest, and he doesn't always make defenders miss. So Nick Singleton is, if he hits his high-end outcome, he is one of the best running backs in this draft class right behind Jeremiah Love, and he becomes like a top 15, top 12 running back in the NFL at some point. If he lands in the right spot with the right coaches, I think he can get there. He's currently mocked to be a fourth-round pick overall. The team, they say to the Denver Broncos, that would be great for Nick Singleton, bad for RJ Harvey. J.K. Dobbins is only going to be there for another year or two at most, so we'll see how it goes. Now, my number 6 running back, we're sticking with Penn State, another dual backfield like the Notre Dame one, because now we have to talk about who I mentioned earlier, Kaytron Allen. Kaytron Allen would be considered the safer starter pick in the profile that you feel more secure about out of Penn State between him and Nick Singleton. But the reason I have him lower, and we'll get into it, is I just don't think he has as much upside. You pay for the safety, but not as much of the ceiling. He's 5'11", 216 pounds. That's all great. He did not test at the NFL Combine. So overall, you're not getting any testing from these running backs at the NFL Combine, although he did have a very strong showing at the Senior Bowl. Both of these running backs did, but specifically Kaytron Allen has been a complete back at the Senior Bowl. 18.61 miles per hour is very good. Smooth route running, tough in between the tackles, and a great pass blocker. He's sort of your safe, fundamental running back. He can pass protect. He'll get you 4 yards on the ground. Is he going to have these explosive broken plays? No, but he could break some tackles. And it also helps that he has 4 years of production at Penn State. 867 yards in 4 straight seasons while averaging at least 5 yards per carry every year. Back-to-back seasons of at least 1,100 rushing yards, and his production has increased in 3 straight years, topping out in a career year last year of over 1,300 yards, averaging a career high 6.2 yards per attempt, career highs with 15 catches. He's just not going to be the receiver, right? Nick Singleton was the receiving back in this backfield. You're not going to get much of a pass catcher here. If you can combine Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, well, of course, you're going to get this great running back. You're going to get a top running back in this draft class, but they're 2 separate guys here, so you have to pick the flavor that you like more. Now, Kaytron Allen ended his college career on an absolute heater. Once the new coaching staff came in, you just saw them leaning on Kaytron Allen. You're talking about 28 carry games, 21, 19, and to end his college career, 25 carries, 181 yards, multiple touchdowns. 25 carries, 160 yards, multiple touchdowns, and in his last game in college, 22 carries, 226 yards, and a touchdown. Absolute monster during this final month of the season, which is why he had that career high year, averaging 180 yards per game those final 3 games. I do think Kaytron Allen can kind of be like the Brian Robinson of this draft class, catch a couple of check down passes, doesn't have the long speed like you could see right here. That would have been a Nick Singleton touchdown, but he has enough in between the tackles, power runner, hits his reads, can break some tackles like right here. You're getting a very tough 10 yards, 12 yards, breaking even more tackles here from a Kaytron Allen that you're just not going to get from a lot of other running backs. Reminds me a lot of Brian Robinson from that mold. You're getting the power, you're getting the smart running ability, good ball security, thrives in the short yardage, but the downside is going to be that you're not getting the breakaway speed, you're not getting that receiving upside, and you're not getting the open field elusiveness or breakaway potential. So in a weaker running back class, class, this type of prospect, the Brian Robinson type running back prospect, is just going to be one that's going to be coveted. If you can get them in the 4th round, they're cheap on a rookie deal, cheaper than maybe some of the free agent running backs out there, and you see what you have in them. Maybe they hit their upside outcome and they do a little bit more for you and could be a workhorse at times. Currently, his consensus rank is to be a 4th round pick, as you can see right here. So overall, these Penn State running backs, probably 3rd or 4th round picks. If they both go in the 3rd or 4th round, I think they are fantasy relevant players. Now, my number 7 running back is going to be Emmett Johnson, and this is a guy in the pre-draft process. You're talking about any of the Senior Bowls or the Shrine Bowl, and specifically the NFL Combine. He's somebody that's dropping. He's been a pre-process faller, and a lot of that, and really all of it, has to do with his NFL Combine testing, which I think is completely overblown. He tested in at 5'10", 202 pounds, and he was a guy who went out there and did not test great. He runs a 4.56 40 time, which for his prospect profile, the way that he plays, his play type, I think is fine, but people are going to jump up and down about it because it's only a 41st percentile below average speed score. His burst score was only slightly above average. His agility, he was one of only, he might have been the only running back, one of 2 or 3 maybe, to do the agility testing, the 3-cone drill, and he did not test good at all in that. He probably just shouldn't have done it. His bench press wasn't all that impressive. So at the NFL Combine, he should have done nothing. If he did nothing, he would probably be a top 5 running back with a bullet, probably top 4 in this draft class. But instead, he tested poorly. But that does not change the fact that his film was fantastic. And it doesn't change the fact that he had the production. Last year in college, when he finally got his chance after waiting behind some other guys in previous years, he was a workhorse for 251 carries, almost 1,500 rushing yards. He also added in, and this is the big calling card for an Emmett Johnson, 46 receptions last year, a 16% target share, was arguably Nebraska's best running back and wide receiver at the same time. Year before that, 39 catches as well on a 10% target share. He is the guy in this draft class that people are going to drop. Now, hopefully the NFL draft doesn't drop him that far. He looks like the Bucky Irving in this draft class, ran really slow, still goes in the 3rd or 4th round because of his ability to both pass protect, pass catch, and produce on the ground. The film for Emmett Johnson is all you need to look at. Don't use this 4.5 40 time, which is not bad, by the way, for his play style of over 200 pounds. Don't use that against him. Instead, I want you to look at the film, his ability to break tackles in these short areas of the field. He is just so shifty. He led all running backs in college football in yards between the A and the B gap. He averaged 6.4 yards per carry on runs against stacked boxes. This guy's an absolute unit, not even to factor in that he's efficient. He's usable from a route tree perspective. You could put him in the slot. He's very good from that regard. He can bust through holes. He fits multiple different run concepts, the A, the B gaps. He is awesome. Look at this. Short area quickness. That is a minus 3-yard run. These are the small things that people won't look at. That last run was a minus 3-yard run that he gets 2 to 3 yards on. That's the difference between a stalled drive, a 3rd and long. Now you're facing the blitz. Okay, now it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and manageable. Like a Katron Allen, he also ended his college career on an absolute tear. 5 straight games right here of at least 100 rushing yards, with 4 of those 5 going for 125 rushing yards or more. Finish his career against 2 top defenses, Penn State in the Big Ten, 100 yards, and then Iowa, 29 carries, 217 yards and a touchdown, while averaging 7.5 yards per carry. Emmett Johnson, in my opinion, he's going to be wrongfully knocked due to his NFL Combine too much. Yes, you could use it against him a little bit, but nowhere near as much as you should, because his film does not show you that he's this long speed guy that he relies on it. His film instead shows you that he can break tackles. He's great in the short areas. He's a legit running back. Now, the downsides to a profile like an Emmett Johnson are going to be he needs to develop as a pass protector more, doesn't have that long speed, and he's not a run through your face type of player in general. He's going to be shifty. He is the Bucky Irving type mold of this draft class. I think he's completely fine. Right now, he's being comped as a 3rd round pick. That makes sense. Minnesota Vikings are a common comp right here. As you can see, team fits. That would be very cool. Aaron Jones is going to come back for 1 more year, sure. I don't know if he'll be involved all that much if they were to take an Emmett Johnson. So Emmett Johnson to me is somebody I'm looking at a lot right now. Now, before we get into this next guy, and you can see a hint of him right here in the video version, I just want to let you know that the Fantasy Blueprint waitlist, the pre-order, is available right now. You can check it out with the link in the description below, or by going to blueprintdrop.com. That will take you to this page. You just enter your email, and then once you enter your email, click this button to get early access, and I will email you and notify you a week before the Blueprint actually launches. And the reason why that's important for you, not only will you get notified, but you'll get notified before the public does, so you can get it at the cheapest price that's only available for people who are on that wait list. If you got it last year, if you know you're going to get it again this year, you might as well get it at the cheapest price now once the Blueprint drops closer to June compared to August. So check it out, blueprintdrop.com. Make sure to get on that exclusive wait list. Okay, now let's get into my number 8 running back in this class out of Kentucky, Seth McGowan. Now, this is a running back who I wouldn't be shocked if he's not even drafted. That's just kind of the type of class this is, that once you start to get down to like the number 8, 9, 10 a running back, they might not even be drafted, or they'll be a 6th or 7th round pick, maybe at best. He's 6 foot, 223 pounds. You scroll over here, he tested great at the combine, which is really going to help him. He's a riser in the pre-draft process. 4.49 40 time at his size is a top 10% speed score, 99th percentile burst score. He had the best vertical jump that we've seen, vertical and broad jump combination, in years. One of the best we've ever seen at the NFL Combine, which is great for him. And Seth McGowan really needed this because overall, like, now you know he's fast, now you know he's explosive based on testing, but he was never a great producer in college. You talk about 2024 at New Mexico State, 5 yards per carry, sure, but was never a workhorse. 153 rush attempts, 23 receptions. Transfers in 2025 to Kentucky, still not a workhorse, only averages 4.4 yards per carry, only has 19 catches, not all that involved in the offense. And the concern is he played in his final year of college at age 25. When he plays in the NFL this year, he will be a 26-year-old rookie running back. 26 years old. We're talking about running backs basically being done by the time they're 30 in the NFL. So you're not getting all that much out of Seth McGowan. Now, maybe you just sign him, you get the 4-year rookie deal as like a 5th or a 6th round pick, and then he's done, and that could be fine for you, but you're not getting like those prime years of the running back out of a Seth McGowan at this age. Now, that's a concern. If we start to look at some of his game logs overall, he started the season off hot. You're talking about some big games, 100+ yard games, averaging 6.2, 5.8, 6.6 yards per carry, but then he starts to face some of the tougher teams in the country. We're talking about a Georgia, a Texas. He struggles there, and for the rest of the season against tougher SEC competition like Auburn, like Florida, like a top 14 Vanderbilt, he's not doing well at all. He's averaging 2.7, 2.5, 3.2 yards per carry. So starts the season off hot against weaker competition, starts to struggle immensely as he faces average to good competition. And honestly, like, the biggest selling point for Seth McGowan, if you start to look at his film, there's really not much there. It's just the fact that this is a weaker draft class and he had a good NFL combine. His biggest selling point is that he's built like an NFL back at 223 pounds. He has that explosiveness profile. You can see his ability here as a downfield runner. He can get behind his tacklers as well. He turns nothing gains into gains of 2 to 3 to 4 yards. But the obvious weakness is he's 25 and a half to 26 years old. He's had some off-field issues, although charges were dropped, but he did spend some time in jail. He's not going to create these big plays for you. And although he tested like a freak athlete, you're talking about some of the best bursts we've ever seen, awesome speed for his size, it never showed up on film, or rarely showed up on film, his ability to create these explosive plays. A 26-year-old rookie who doesn't have a lot of great film in college at multiple different schools and struggled when he went up in competition at Kentucky last year, that's a concern for me. So you might be saying, Sal, why is he your number 8 ranked running back? And I would tell you, because that's how bad this class is. We don't have many guys. The fact that you're 220 pounds with an elite prospect or testing profile, and you at least played in the SEC and were able to put up almost 1,000 total yards last year, that's enough to be my number 8 running back in this class. He's currently projected as a 6th round pick. He did rise a little bit around the NFL draft, as you can see this little leap right here. If he goes in the 5th round, that's great. He's going to be a later round pick. The age is the big concern for me if you're talking about dynasty fantasy football, or really just the NFL in general. Now for my number 9 pick, this is going to be Damon Claiborne out of Wake Forest. Damon Claiborne is going to be the smaller running back in this draft class. 5'8", 188 pounds. When you're that small, you need to test properly, and he did. He ran in the 4.3. He's a 4.37. It's not like as good as it gets for his size. You would like to see a little bit lower, like a 4.3 flat, your Devon Achane type speeds, your Keaton Mitchells, but a 4.37, obviously elite speed. That's going to be just fine. And this is a guy, although he's a little bit smaller, we've seen some running backs in the NFL, Bucky Irving, smaller back, Devon Achane, smaller back. They've excelled lately, so that helps Damon Claiborne potentially get drafted earlier, or at least lets coaches want to use him more depending on where he goes. Now, it also helps that this was a guy who had back-to-back years of production at Wake Forest. You can see right here in 2024, he had a 1,000-yard season, and then he follows that up this past year with 907 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, caught 20-plus balls in each season. Not the greatest pass-catching running back, but he did enough on an 8.5 and a nearly 10% target share. So solid overall stats there. The big problem for him in 2025, this year right here, where he ends up seeing much less carries, he goes from 228 to 179. A big part of that was ball security. He had 7 fumbles. That was a major red flag last year. That's going to be a major red flag as well when he goes to the NFL if he doesn't figure that out, especially when you combine that ball security and inability to break tackles with his overall problem with his size. You combine all that together, that's going to be a concern. Like, the thing that Devon Achane had going for him at Texas A&M, he was a workhorse back. He was breaking tackles. They were using him like a 220-pound running back, and he was holding up. Dealt with some injuries in the NFL, but that made it easier to translate because he did have those broken tackles on film. Even though he was small, he played bigger. Now, you see that at times for Damon Claiborne, but it's not as consistent, right? A lot of the times is this right here. His speed to get to the outside. He kind of goes out of the frame there because he's just so fast. He's going to mostly use that speed to get to the outside. He's going to try and bounce it as much as possible. That's not going to be as apparent and open in the NFL against faster, smaller, especially in today's NFL, linebackers out there. So his strengths are that lateral quickness, the ability to get to the outside, his acceleration. He does have improving hands, and he's a serious return threat, which could get him on the field a little bit sooner than some other guys in this class. But the downsides, pass protection, his power, his size, decision-making at times, inability to break tackles. So I do think that you're going to have a nice profile out of Damon Claiborne, but the fact that he's not an elite pass catcher, ability to break tackles, probably more of a satellite back. I don't think this is like the next Devon Achane. Now, my number 10 running back in this class is an interesting one. Out of Clemson, it's Adam Randall. Adam Randall is very interesting to me because not only is he a massive 6'3", 232 pounds, he's a former wide receiver. His first 3 years in college at Clemson, he was a wide receiver. Then he was a running back last year, had a good year. We'll show you that shortly. But at the NFL Combine, for a 230-plus pound running back, he tested great. A 4.5 40 time is awesome. 95th percentile for his speed. 80th percentile burst score. Was the number one in bench presses at the Combine for running backs with 26 bench press reps, which would make sense at 230-plus pounds. This is a powerful back. He has the very rare combination of speed, power, burst, and also production last year in college in his first year ever as a running back. This is sort of like that Tyron Tracy mold of a pass wide receiver. Lesser extent, Rashad Smith, 7th-round pick, who only did a little bit of things for the Chiefs last year. But in that first year as a running back last season, and if you look at it, his first 3 years in college at Clemson, they just weren't using him. Just 10 catches, 22 catches, 16 catches. He just wasn't breaking out there. He ends up becoming a running back, and he actually looks decent considering it's his first time ever playing that at the college level. 814 yards, nearly 5 yards per carry. You scroll over here, 36 receptions, which is not shocking since he's a former wide receiver that he was able to produce on an 11% target share. Now he's coming to the NFL, and you're going to see a lot of strengths to his game at the running back position. He has breakaway speed for his size. Some of that helps with the wide receiver. He has decent footwork for being only like first year. It could be improved as well, but you're going to get the frame, the athleticism, the obvious receiving skills as well out of Adam Randall is going to be there, and it's going to be evident since he is a former wide receiver. If we look at some more things here, surprisingly good contact balance if we were to watch some more of this tape. Showed an ability to get to the outside because of his size, especially against some college guys. I mean, some of these guys you're facing are 19, 20 years old. They don't have all their size yet if they're freshman or sophomore. He's able to break tackles, which if he's a senior at 230 pounds, that makes sense. We'll see if it translates to the NFL, but I do think he'll probably go day 3. The weaknesses are going to be obvious, like as you watch through some of this tape, like the passing game role here, ability to run routes, that's very good. Ability to get downfield and run routes, touchdown back of the end zone, know where the end zone is, toe tap, all that makes sense as a former wide receiver his entire career in high school and college, but you're going to get some, still learning the position, inconsistencies when it comes to decision making, when it comes to vision, might be a little bit more scheme specific of a back as well. Overall, I would say he probably gets drafted based on the fact that he did produce at Clemson last year. He has this hybrid approach. We saw Rashard Smith get drafted in round 7. We saw Tyron Tracy get drafted in round 5. I think somewhere between round 5 and round 7 is probably where you see him end up going. Maybe even a team wants to turn him back into a wide receiver. He's had visits with teams like the Patriots. He's had visits with teams like, let's see the other team here. This is actually a nice report by Jordan Reed. He left the Clemson Pro Day. His biggest takeaway was that some team is going to get an absolute steal in Adam Randall, former wide receiver turned running back, all that, right? This is going to be a guy who's going to be a backup at best in the NFL. That's just the type of draft class this is. Once you start to get down to like the number 10 running back in the draft, he's not going to be a starter, at least not right away, maybe not ever in the NFL in this specific draft class. One of the worst ones we've seen in maybe a decade for the running back position. So these are the top running backs for this draft class, the top 10 ranked in order. We'll have the wide receiver version of this video out later this week. If you like this video at all, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I appreciate you all in advance. And if you want to see the free agency risers for fantasy football that not enough people are talking about, you can check out this video right here.